Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am Money Mike, and today on the front 7, I am going to be giving out some ideas for the Washington football team, as they are now nameless. The team formerly known as the Washington Redskins has decided to just be the Washington football team for at least a year. Dan Snyder is putting off kind of like, okay, we'll change the name, but we're just going to go by the Washington football team and we'll just put everything off. Now their website has asked fans to submit ideas, names, logos, to help rename and rebrand the team. So I am here today because I'm not a logo person. I'm not really good at making logos, but in video form, I am going to help the Washington Redskins find a new team name and identity. Now, I've seen online people say I've seen somebody online say the Warhawks. I think that would work too. But I think I went with the Hogs just because it still has that connection with the team. A lot of people say, a lot of people look this when they announced this was like, oh, the history, and well, the Hogs is the best way to go about it because you're tying in the history of the team. Because you go back to the 80s when the Redskins won 3 Super Bowls behind Doug Williams. Well, what was Doug Williams standing behind and making passes behind? An offensive line that was nicknamed the Hogs. It makes perfect sense. You keep the lineage of the team. You still have history of the team, and it harkens back to the days of when the team was successful, and perhaps that might actually bring some hope that there might be some good success going forward under Ron Rivera with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback. Again, going with history, the Washington Braves. Now, before anybody says anything, hold on, we have the Atlanta Braves. It might be confusing. Well, we have the San Francisco Giants, and we have the New York Giants. I don't think anybody confuses which one plays football and which one plays baseball. Also, again, I did a lot of research history-wise. Now, when the team was renamed to the Redskins in 1933, what the team owner at that time, he renamed it to that, but the name previously before Redskins, when they were in Boston, they were known as the Boston Braves. Then he switched them to the Boston Redskins, and then they relocated to Washington, D.C., and became the Washington Redskins. So if you rename the team the Washington Braves again, you're actually harkening back to the original name of the franchise before the name was changed to the Redskins. And again, I don't think anybody's going to confuse the Atlanta Braves, who play baseball, and the Washington Braves, if they were to choose that name, who play football. And again, Giants in San Francisco. We have a team in New York by the Giants. It can work. The Washington Senators. Again, history. I looked back to try to make sure to tie into some history with this club and with the team or with the NFL. Because in the 1920s, there was a franchise that was known as the Washington Senators that played in the NFL. So, why not use the Washington Senators? You bring back that name. That's a name that was an NFL team in the 1920s. And it fits with the whole DC theme and the government, and we have senators, and it fits the city, and it works. The Washington Reds. Now, again, as I said, I'm getting all these baseball team themes out of the way. But just like the Braves, I know there's a team called the Reds in Cincinnati. I know that. But here's the thing. As I said, we have San Francisco Giants that play baseball, New York Giants that play football. Nobody's ever confused the two. So why don't we just remove the skins and just call them the Washington Reds? I think you could still keep the colors. I think you could easily just change them up. I mean, the Cincinnati Reds used to be the Red Stockings. They were actually, they were known as the Red Stockings, but they shortened it up to the Reds. And I think if you just kind of do the same thing with the Redskins, where you shorten the name of that team down to the Reds, it works. I don't think anybody will have a problem with that. The Washington Gladiators. So this one here, if Dan Snyder wants a team that's like, it sounds tough, that kind of sparks fear into an opponent, I think Gladiators work. I mean, look, the last team on my list here is the Warriors. I mean, that works too. But the Warriors, I'll go into that just a little bit. But I think you go with the Gladiators. It's tough. It's it's like a name that you would fear, and I think you'd go along with it. I think Gladiators sounds cool. I mean, you could do some cool tie-ins with the TV show American Gladiators. I think you could do some cool stuff with like the mascot and just something cool there with the Gladiators. That'd be kind of cool. They want to use that. But last but not least, here on this list of my suggestions for the Washington football team, again, leave your comments below. Tell me what you think of my names. Do you think, or what do you think the name should be? Leave that in the comments below as well. Last but not least, the Washington Warriors. So with this one here, there's a little bit of backstory with this Warriors name. So apparently Dan Snyder had it trademarked. Had it trademarked for quite a while. Now apparently he does not have it trademarked no more. But he used to have it trademarked because of there was a plan to use it for a arena football team. But that never came to fruition. And basically he kind of had the trademarks on it, but then that all kind of fell through, and I think he just never really used it. And so he doesn't have that trademark no more, but it was something that it seemed like Dan Snyder was already kind of had something in his back pocket previously where he could, if something like this happened where he was kind of like, okay, you know what, fine, I'll change the name, whatever. But it seemed like he already had the name change ready to go. He had it trademarked. And they don't have to really change the uniform. They can keep the burgundy and gold. But essentially, the Warriors name was already ready. Dan Snyder was ready for it. He was just kind of hard-headed and refused to change the name of the team to avoid being. I mean, because if honestly, I think a lot of people are split on this because I don't want to get into the politics of this. Politics is not my thing, but I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, Dan Snyder caved," and then people like they were happy he changed the name. The people who thought he caved was like, "Oh, he caved into the pressure," blah blah blah. I mean, look, if you're an owner of a football team and the sponsors of your team say, "Hey, change the name of the team," or risk losing money, you're not going to lose money. It was an easy decision for Snyder, but I do think if this name change was done in any way, let's say Snyder actually used the trademarks for the Washington Warriors and changed the name of the team and said we're changing it to the Washington Warriors in 2014, 2015, 2016. When even though I mean there was some people that were saying to change the name back then, it just wasn't as big a deal. That the sponsors weren't involved. It was just kind of this thing that was like it was there, and then like okay, when they didn't get their way, when Snyder refused to do it, it was just kind of like They just said okay, whatever, fine, we'll let you do whatever, we'll let you keep the name. And then then the years just went by, and then now all of a sudden, because of our political culture now, I think just everything came together with how everything is in 2020, our political spectrum, and basically that kind of just said, okay, you know what? Dan Snyder said, all right, we'll do it. We'll change the name. So maybe he can get the name for the Washington Warriors again. Who knows? But let me know in the comments below. What do you think should be the name of the new Washington football team in 2021? It does seem as if they're going to try to milk it with selling these jerseys and merchandise that say Washington football team for at least a year before they force people to buy all new stuff next year with the new team name, team logo, things like that. So personally for me, I like the Warriors name. I mean, if I had to choose a name out of the names that I came up with on this list, I mean, again, Warriors. I think Warriors is a great name. But I also do like Gladiators. I do think that is a really good name for a team. But I also kind of like the names that I've seen on the internet. Red Wolves, War Hogs, Red Tails. I like all these names. I like the design people have come up with. So hopefully now that I've thrown my name in the hat, maybe we'll see if one of these gets chosen for the new name of the Washington football team next year. So we'll see. I've been your host, Money Mike. This has been the Front Seven. And stay tuned for more of the Front Seven as we get closer to the start of the NFL season.